Hey guys. Thank you for waiting for a second. Of course, you open Zoom and it says, we have an update. You're like, awesome. So if you're hopping on live, please tell me you're here. If you're watching the replay, please, still comment, still participate so that we can see that we're not all alone in this crazy world of Mammon, okay? Hey Siri, she's in Vegas. Who else is on live? Let's see. If I can see this. It says there's a couple other people on live. So let's keep this real. Let's get going. So I know that this subject, you might be like, I've heard this before. But I will tell you that if this is something that when you think about it, it pings in your brain, like, this is something I don't want to talk about. That is your red flag that you get to be in this class. Because our sexuality is totally something that is part of us. And that's why there's been this huge revolution around mental health, right? We're finally discovering that our brains are part of us, that they're an organ just like our heart that has had so much attention brought to it, how to keep it healthy, how to, how important our heart health is. And now we're going, hey, we have this other really huge organ that basically manages everything. Maybe we should be paying attention to our brain health. And I am positive there's going to be a revolution, and I think it's already beginning, where we talk about our sexual health. It's a big part of our body. It's a part of our existence. And if you read my post that I put out, it is like unto drinking water. We need to drink water. It helps us stay healthy. We seek water. Our sexual organs are a piece of our body that are so important for our hormonal health, our brain health, yes, even our heart health to a point. These organs are not here just for one day that you decide that maybe you want to have a baby with your partner. That is not what this is. Our sexual organs are there from birth. And like I said, I am taking the morality out of this conversation because that has been a piece that I think, in my opinion, you can tell me in the chat what you think, has been part of the reason that this has been taboo. But it's so interesting because as I searched the scriptures and really searched what Jesus taught and all this stuff, I never found anywhere about anything specific that is don't talk about this. You know what I mean? And I never saw a part that was super specific about don't talk about mental health. Don't talk about your hearts. He talks about taking care of your whole temple. He talks about how every piece of the body is vital to this experience. And why aren't we exploring all of these pieces and understanding the purpose of all of it? And as science comes around and psychology has come around, I just want to set this stage of how important this conversation is. And I want to just share with you where I've been. And if you resonate with kind of my childhood and where things have come from and why I thought it was taboo and this was a harder subject for me years ago, please drop in the chat. Yes, I get you. I remember that. That was me too. So as a child, this is how it went down. Yeah, pretty much. We didn't talk about it. If you were touching your genitalia, it was we don't do that. It was okay, this is my body. Like in a young child's mind, it really doesn't connect to tell them, no, we don't do that. No, 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 you're bad. Like then they get this idea they're a bad kid for touching their body. They're a bad kid for having these body parts. That is the very beginning. When a parent tells their child it is bad, it is not okay to like know about parts of their body. You know, when they're very young and they're like, show me your eye, and they say eye, and they're like a year old, and show me your teeth, and they have like 2 teeth, and it's okay to also say, show me your bum. Like it's not, that's why our mindset, guys, as I was preparing for this class, I realized I'm like, the biggest piece about this is your mindset around it. That's why becoming emotionally strong, emotionally resilient, and emotionally open yourself is so important for you to have a more holistic view of your sexuality, for your child to have a more safe, supported, holistic view of their sexuality. Like, we all have a butt. All males have a penis. All women have a vagina. Like, you are going to hear me say these words because that is how it needs to be. And I'm going to get into that in a second. But really, when I was a kid, it was hush hush. It was totally, it was bad to explore. It was bad to like, if you were caught exploring, you were completely shamed, sometimes humiliated. Like, we have to talk to dad about this. And guess what I caught her doing? And I remember one time I had watched a movie and it was a little bit, in my mind, it was graphic. I was very young. I don't know why my parents were watching it or whatever, but I was there. But there was nakedness, and there was this moment where a couple was, I believe, gonna, go have sex or whatever. And he was kind of undressing her. And I was like, what is this? Like, what's happening here? Like, I could see what was happening, but I didn't know why. And I was pulled in. I remember feeling, guys, our hormones and our stuff, like at a very young age, can be provoked. Like, this isn't something that gets to be waited until they get married or when they're 16 or whatever. And I remember I drew a picture, kind of like, what was this? Like, trying to reignite kind of this emotion that I had felt. And my mom found this drawing and she's like, do you want to talk about this? Like and I was like, guys, okay, if you're taking notes, maybe step 1, but like, don't say that. Like, do you want to talk about this? Like, no, of course I don't want to talk about this, because obviously this is a scary thing if you're coming at me with this kind of attitude. But honestly, that was basically the end of it. And when I was getting married, in my household, we were very, because it was hush hush, because it was, you just didn't talk about it. Like, you just didn't talk about it. And so a lot of the bigger, more important aspects of sexual activity were not given to you until like the night before your wedding. Because the way we grew up, you didn't engage in sexual behaviors until you got married. And you were supposed to have sex on your wedding night because that consummated your marriage. Like, it was this whole thing. I will not say that to my children. That is not something I believe in. Again, the morality of the whole thing, that is up to you. I have taken a whole different approach as I have become more sexually healthy, as I have become more mentally strong and understanding of my body and how important body awareness is from head to toe for your health, understanding what's going on with yourself. Like, I'm so happy that Siri's in the chat just telling us how it is. Thank you so much. And those of you that are watching the replay, I get it. It's the end of July. It's a busy day, but please watch this replay and please comment how it was for you, so that you can start to become aware. That is so important. And you can start to see where things get to shift for you as you put it out there in writing. The next step is to actually talk about it with someone. And so let's see. Then once I did get married, and I will tell you those first few months of marriage were very stressful. I mean, we had good times but I know that I was probably like this. Like I was so tense about sexual activity. I didn't understand a lot of the stuff my husband was trying to do, or like, and he could see that he didn't know how to respond to somebody that was so tense about all of this. We didn't talk about it because we didn't talk about it. It took years, you guys, to be very open, clear, literal about sexual things, which is insane to me now. It's my body, we're like, oh, we're gonna have kids, I had my first kid, and guys, that was a trauma in itself. To go to my first doctor's appointment where they feel all the things and touch you like that. I don't even have words yet. I'm realizing, even giving this conversation, how many things I get to explore and heal myself. But just realize this is something men and women go through if this is not breached at a younger age. Okay. And I believe it really, really affects marriages. How clear and holistic you are in your emotional health, which totally affects your sexual health, which, they are connected. So with my oldest child, when I had taken my first route in college was to do child development. And I had learned a ton about the views of sexuality and how things develop in the child's body. We did a lot of observation work, and I was able to, at that time, I still had young siblings and young kids around me. I could look at how they were dealing with their emotions and all these different things. It was just so good for me to start to learn about how our brains develop. And that got me really curious. It was kind of the first time a seed was planted in me that I was like, when I have kids, I now understand they're going to start feeling this at this age. They're going to have these big emotions. I started having this thing, I will be forever grateful. I ended up changing my major and I went into business and stuff. But those first 2 years of doing a lot of child development stuff were so good. I kind of think anybody that thinks they're going to ever have kids should be forced to take university level child development classes. But that was where I was first, had read a lot about child development. And as my child got older, I started to notice, and it came back to me okay, when they are 5 to 7 is when their brain shifts into a more identity place, right? And we learn that those first few years when they're really young, they won't even really play with other kids as much as play alongside kids. And I know we're getting into child development here, but this is so important when we're breaching these conversations because it starts when they're born. And I will explain that in just a second. Not a second, but in a few minutes, we're going to discuss some other things. But when I started to notice these things, okay, and I was just okay, guys, this is intentional parenting. When you see something and then you go get a resource, you talk to someone, you figure out what's happening, and you're intentional with how you go about it instead of, this is emotional unavailability. I can't deal with this. I can't deal with this. Go to your room. I can't deal with this. Just be quiet. Oh, this is something that your dad has to tell you. Abdicating responsibility, right? That's emotional unavailability. And your kids pick up on it. They're born. They know. They know. Okay. They know. And once my child got though to be about 7, 8, and then I was hey, this is, and I had watched a seminar about sexual health for kids, right? Intentional parenting. I wanted to do this right. But when she was little, I started to notice the emotions, and I said, oh, you're having some big emotions. And I was just learning about love and logic parenting and how to stay cool and calm, because I was reactive and mean and demanded perfection until that point. Didn't serve me well. Go back and watch some of my other parenting classes to learn about how that went down. But I was able to learn how to breach the conversations and just say, oh, you're having emotional, this is emotions when we're feeling this big way. Is that, how do you feel in this moment? Really ask her, what are you feeling? She's like, yeah, there's just this feeling, or my brain isn't working. And I'd be like, oh man, that's a frustrating feeling. I get that too. Helping your kids know they're not broken. They don't have a problem. Like, it's so important that we help them to feel like a human that is progressing, and that you're there to support them, like all of these types of things. And when she was about 8, though, 3rd grade, just if you guys aren't there yet, 2nd, 3rd grade, you might have a bomb dropped on you, but they get very emotional. That's the first time, because of brain development, their hormones start to flow for the first time in a consistent way. And that's because the body is slowly, right? Just so slow, like a slug, is starting to prepare for puberty in the next couple of years. And they get emotional. They start to feel their big emotions. They will plop to the floor and have meltdowns, not the same kind as like a 3-year-old. A 3-year-old's meltdown is a lot of just like, I am born into this world of all things and I cannot handle how much is happening in this moment. But when they're like 7, 8, 9, they'll have a meltdown and scream, cry, slam the door, kick the wall. I mean, all the things I've seen, throw their face into a pillow and cry. I mean, and you're like, are we already in the terrible, I mean, is this teens? Like, what's happening? They'll be very emotional. And I was just like, hey, I need to talk to my kid about that. Her brain is starting to release hormones in preparation for her awesome, self. And because here's how it was when I was a kid. My emotions were dictated. We don't cry about that. I see you're sad about that, but that's really inappropriate. I see you're upset about this thing, but we don't get upset about that. Anyone have parents that did that? I'm not condemning my parents. The 80s were rough. We didn't have all the psychology stuff we know now. So I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of you in this age range have had some sort of emotional unavailability with their parents or this type of upbringing, because that was just what it was at that time for many of us. But knowing that is why this is such a struggle now, because our kids, like, they need us to support them, like, in real time. Children, we now know, need so much more emotional support than we ever understood before. And, little side note or big side note, adults do too, because our emotions are ever evolving as we age. Doesn't matter what age you are, you need emotional support. It's part of being a human. And so having parents that dictated my feelings, it was hard for me initially with my first kid to be like, is this an okay emotion? I didn't know. Like, I had to read books and go to classes and be like, what is normal? Is it okay if my kid has a meltdown? Is this? And I started to learn that it really was a normal process for children to have meltdowns and to have big emotions and to react and to sometimes use their body for big emotional things, and they would want to throw something. And I'm like, oh, so you're telling me adults that do this just have never matured? Like, that section of their understanding has never matured. They're still there. These adults that wave around or hit or throw or scream or yell, they have a very child wounded section that hasn't been healed and brought to maturity. And if that's you, I was there with my first child, and I got so upset about something. I recall throwing, I think it was a mouse. I was trying to do something and I was so upset that I just tossed it, and I was like, but it was in those moments I would freeze, and then it was the guilt and the regret, and I'm such a bad mom, and why am I like this? Now I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's so much that we can help our kids understand. So what happens if we don't figure this out? What's the cost? We are all, I love what's happening in the chat over here. Like that you guys are talking about how you felt dumb, you felt naive, like you're wondering why your kids wonder about these things. Like Carissa, this is so good. And Sheree talking about, my mom just sent me to my room. Go deal with it over there. Is there something magic in my bedroom? Like, guys, this is so important. Like, I'm so glad we're on the same page. So who wants to know some of the definite steps from age 0 to 18 that I have taken, that I have seen has helped my kids to be so receptive to me in this context of talking about sexuality, holistic sexuality, all of this stuff? Who's ready for it? Drop a 1 in the chat if you are ready. Like, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the steps. Let's talk about, I'm putting them in steps because I'm a note taker. And if I was watching this, I'd be like step 1 or dash 1 or something, right? Like, let's just see it all. I appreciate those of you that are on live that are taking the time to do this today. This is such an important conversation. This is so, my 9-year-old, I asked him last night, I said, hey, I'm going to be teaching some moms about sex tomorrow. Any pointers, any things you want to make sure we talk about it? And he's like, this is how open this is. This is how open this is in our family. And he's just like, no, you're pretty good at it, but you know more than I do because you've had sex and I haven't. And I was like, yeah. He's like, but I'll have it when I'm older. I'm like, okay, And then even a little bit later, he's like, Mom, is the class you're doing at 9:30 today the one about sex? And I was like, yeah. And he's 9. That is the pinnacle age of boys exploration. So to hear him say these things, I'm just like, yep, he's wondering what I'm going to talk about. I would invite him in to listen to this class, except he is notorious for making a lot of noise. So let's get into it. So first things first. And one of the biggest pieces to this that I will talk about a lot is you getting coaching, getting counseling, whatever it is you need to do with somebody you trust, somebody that you know can help you grow in your areas of holistic healing and working through your stuff. That's something that you can just put maybe on the side. You're gonna have all these steps and you write something up the side that applies to all of them. That's the common denominator. Good words. Words are coming. That's the common denominator through all of this. Being emotionally available so your kids will talk back is probably the biggest piece to all of this. Okay. So just put it in bold, highlight it, whatever you need to do, because young kids pick up on it, but I'll tell you, kids know instantly if you're available or not. Like teens know instantly if an adult is available for them or not, like instantly. You cannot pull a mask. You cannot pretend. You cannot paste on a happy face, right? Go back to your high school days and remember when you could tell your high school teacher was distracted. Like when you could remember that you were called in to talk about I don't know, and you could just tell that they had an agenda, that they were going to push you on something. They were frustrated. Like teens pick up on that stuff. I mean, they are so raw. So just know your personal work gets to be kind of up here on priority in this context. So the first thing to have around the house, if you're doing step 1, is anatomy books. Big, colorful, full on, babies to adults, show the human body. Have it available. Because we all know that if you don't tell them, they will go find it because they're humans and want to know. They will seek out the anatomy books in the library at age 7. They will talk to their friends about it at age 8, 6, 9, whatever. They will find it. They will. I recall trying to sneak into my family's living room and get the dictionary and look up sex and what is this, and like, and if you don't raise your hand, and like if I said, hey, who else also explored in secret a little bit, like, you know what I mean? Like, this is just the normal stuff. So step one, have anatomy books. And even better, if you can find some good resources for child development, like brain development, talking about the different stages of when we feel things and have identity and all of these things, there are some good books. And I will put together a resource list for a couple of you for this. But if you have one that you use, please put it in the chat. I'm writing myself a note here. Books for kids, like not for adults, but probably help adults too. Yes, Sierra, so much curiosity. We have so much curiosity about everything. And it's, again, so all levels of anatomy books, let there be the ones that talk about sex. Let there be the ones that talk about all the things. And I'm not saying you have to go buy some pornography book or something, because that takes it to a level that I'm not going to talk about in this class, but child and adults. So that as your kids grow up and they start to understand what these things are, they will have a resource that's open, that's free. And I'll tell you, when you sit down to talk to them about things, it is so useful to pull out a book to be able to point it out. You know, like, this is what I'm talking about, and this, remember this, and this is how this works. And it's, treat it like math. Seriously, you guys, like, just so have it be there and available. And like, my mom had dictionaries and we had like a few other things that you could look up, but I have, and maybe I have it like right here. My kids took it out and we're looking at it actually. Right? This is the one that's been in our home forever. And I think I got it like, it was like at a yard sale or something. Super cheap, but it is so good. And it talks about, like, when I talk to my kids about why we need to keep their scrapes cleaned, like, we talk about how in this book, it's so good. It talks about their skin, and it talks about, see, like, here's a part about how babies are made and all the parts. And it really goes really good into depth about how this happens and all this stuff. And like, we have a couple other ones that are more, you know, you can just see the naked bodies. You can see what this is, because this is who they are. So pulling the curtain back and being like, look, so as far as when to begin the conversation of bodies changing, to me, you join this class to hear how I do it. So you may take some of this information and you may throw some of this information. That's great. But I started the conversation with the emotional shift that I saw between the ages 6 and 9. That's when I really started a conversation with them, like making sure I was telling them, because I've substitute taught and I have been around kids, and I'll tell you that they are confused about why they get so angry. They feel confusion, they feel crazy, they feel broken, they feel like, oh, Mom, I have this problem, I just can't think and I can't concentrate. And I'm not saying that your kid may or may not have ADHD, or they may or may not have autism, they may or may not have, but I will tell you that in my experience, my kids have exhibited a lot of similar things that other kids that are now medicated exhibited. But because my children were aware, they didn't like obsess on it. And they weren't given a ticket to behave that way. It was just, oh, I've got these big emotions. And we were more into using the school counselor and saying, you know, they're having big emotions today, let's talk about it. And I just wanted to bring this up because the younger we can help them understand that this is normal, and they can bring it to you and say, oh, mom, I had an emotional day. I'm like, oh, what emotions did you feel? And talking about how that can feel in their bodies, that their brain might feel like it's numb, or they might feel like that they're going to explode, or they want to destroy something, or they want to scream into a pillow, or these types of ideas need to be normalized. That a whole holistic adult that has worked on some of this stuff will understand that is not so out of the norm for a child to want to destroy something, to want to punch something, to want to scream into a pillow. Gosh, if we were given some of these permissions when we were young, oh, how much more emotional, like we'd be able to just let our emotions come and feel them and know that. And one of the conversations I have with the kids at this age is like, oh, you're feeling this emotion. How's this feel? And yeah, when you're older, I feel that too. And just know that those emotions help us to know when we need to reach out for help, or they help us know when we're hurt. They help us to understand if we want something or to yearn for something. Those emotions are so important, but just know that the big emotions do pass. And a couple hours later or a couple days later, we can go back and say, okay, what was happening in that moment? What was it that I was feeling? And really clearly articulate that. And I tell them from a very, guys, like, because when they don't understand their emotions will pass, they think they're crazy in that moment and they're very confused. They have regrets and guilt and confusion over choices that they make in those moments. Like, why did I hit that little girl? Why did I steal that candy? Yeah, because a parent will say, why did you do that? How could you even think to do this thing? And they're like, their legit answer might be, I don't know. I don't know. So to ask them why they did something in a big emotional moment, not helpful. Not helpful. So this step 2 or whatever is helping them from the beginning when they have big emotions to recognize that's what it is. This is a big emotion you're feeling. It's a new experience. When they're afraid to get in the water in their first swimming lessons or whatever, it's like, oh, you're feeling a big emotion. Tell me how that feels in your body. What's it feeling like right now? Oh, mom, I feel this way, or I just want to hold your hand, or I want to be with you. Say, yeah, I'm here to support you. Like, that is such a big deal, because if we didn't have our emotions right, we would never seek help. We would never feel injury. We would never learn to care for each other. We wouldn't ever learn how to have empathy or compassion for others or ourselves. And that's one of the biggest journeys I've been on in the last 5 years, is really learning how to give myself empathy and compassion. Because I suppressed or was told not to have these feelings, I would just like hold it all in, like, okay. I never had a lot of empathy or compassion for myself. I was just like, well, this must be wrong. This is something I just have to deal with. I just have to get over it. Like, no, you can sit and feel it. You can sit in your anger. You can sit in your sadness. You can sit in your pain, because the emotion will pass. It really will. I was never taught that, never told that. And then you can think a little bit clearly. The emotion lets us know something's happening. Our emotions have to be there for us to want sex. Our emotions have to be there for the human race to continue. Like, these are so important. And if you're like me, like, not like me, but, well, if you're like me, you might have had a lot of tension in your sexuality. Tension during sex, tension after sex, tension when you have a baby, with people fiddling around down there, like, until I got healthy with stuff and started releasing years of emotional suppression, I was able to finally relax. And like, I will tell you, my sexual life now is nothing like the first, like, 15 years. And I'll tell you, this is much more fun, pleasurable, enjoyable, whatever. And I wish that it would have been that back then. Like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe it. So just remember that this is my opinion here, but too many teens and adults and kids are medicated because of big emotion. And what that's doing is you have to remember that if you numb the bad, if you're numbing the bad, you are also numbing the good. In fact, I have a potential client right now that was saying that because of insurance and her doctor moved or whatever, she had to end up going off of her antidepressant medication for, I think, like 3 or 4 weeks. And she's like, the emotions hit me so hard. She's like, I knew that it would, but it was almost like I needed that, because she had been just feeling like life was worthless. Like life was just like, what's going on? And she's like, it immediately told my brain that I have not felt things for years. And I was feeling all of this stuff, and I wanted to feel. She's like, I finally was alive after so long. And while the emotional highs and lows are hard, she's like, I want to learn how to live and be a human with emotions again. To me, that was beautiful. So beautiful. Now, I'm not saying not to go on medication if you need that support for a time, or if you need it forever, if your brain really doesn't have certain chemical things going on. I get that. Mental health, I get that. But just be aware that because we're not talking about these things, we think we have to like put a Band-Aid on it. Don't look, shut it down. These big emotions. And I understand big emotions can help, can hinder people to the point where they can't learn, they can't be around people. I get it. Get the support. But be aware that if you're numbing your kids' emotions, it will numb them both ways. So they may not feel really happy about anything anymore. They may not cry at a funeral. They may not, you know what I mean? Like, just be aware of that. So step 1 was have the open source of books, things to look at. Don't make it a thing they have to go in secret to find. Number 2, start with the emotional shift when they're age 6 and 9 and understand what that is. Then we're helping them through the big emotions. And then let's talk about the different ages. So you can say this is step 3, whatever. But from the day they're born, let's use correct terminology. Please. Talk about crotch, talk about, the folds of the girl's crotch, talk about the vagina, talk about the anus, talk about penis, talk about testicles. Let's talk about all the parts. Don't call them something else. I promise you, this will do your kid a service to just know what everything is. And that's the words they use. That is so, so important. From day 1, they have a vagina, they have a penis, they have a butt, you know what I mean? We just use those words. From 0 to 4, make sure we're talking about body parts. And I would say this is age 0 to 4. Don't shame them if they touch their body parts. Every 2-year-old, 3-year-old I've ever known, they're sitting in the bath. They're like, what is this thing? They touch it. It has a sensation. They're like, oh, this is interesting. Just observe them. No 2-year-old is going to get addicted to pornography or sex sitting in the bath, touching their crotch or their penis. Come on, guys. Just observe them, that they don't hurt themselves or harm themselves or try to stick a toy somewhere. Just observe them. Just observe them as if they're touching their arm or any other part of their body. Observe them. And when they get a little bit older, encourage the truths that when they're touching their penis a lot or something. My boys did that, right? I'll be like, oh, are you touching your penis? And they'll be like, yeah. And I'll be like, how does that feel to you? And they'll just be like, well, it's kind of funny. And I'm like, oh, well, we want to keep our hands clean. We want to keep our penis clean. So let's make sure that we're not doing that all day long. Okay. Just really keeping the conversation open, talking about how pee and poop come out of these certain areas because our body's cleaning itself out. We want to make sure and keep them very clean. It doesn't have to be a sexual conversation. It's just, this is what this is, At age 5 and 6, really encourage cleanliness when they're going to the bathroom by themselves or in showers by themselves for the first time. And in that 0 to 4, I would also shower with your kids. I would shower with them until they start to show signs that either they want to shower by themselves or they're kind of like, I really want to do this with mom. I'm starting to feel I don't know if I want to stare at her naked body this whole time. and show them I'm cleaning my privates and I'm cleaning under my boobs and I'm doing these things, like, and you just show them how to do that so that when they start to shower themselves, they know what they're doing. Like you know what I mean? Age 5 and 6, encourage cleanliness, showering, washing, wiping appropriately. Talk to your girls about why they want to wipe, front to back. And we want to make sure to keep this area clean because it is an opening to your body. And you don't want to get infections there. I mean, just really conversational. This is what this is. This is why we do it. Like, think how many UTIs we wouldn't have, or yeast infections or different stuff if we understood cleanliness, and encouraging our young girls to do these things appropriately. I will never forget the day that I had a UTI as a young mom, and I'd never had one before. And the doctor had to talk to me and was like, well, do you wipe appropriately? And I'm like, I think so. And he was like, do you do this? And I was like, oh, well, I don't do that every time. Like, I had never been told that. Never in my recollection. Like, I don't know. So it felt really embarrassing. Like, come on, let's help our kids to have a healthy life. And then from age 6 to 9, that emotional conversation, you'll start to see the emotional meltdowns. They're feeling those big emotions. Allow the big emotions. Support them in their big emotions. Here's the conversation. How are you feeling right now? I'm here to support you. What do you need? And listen to them. One of the biggest things that I think will help in these conversations is listen to hear, not listen to respond. So big. Doesn't matter what age your kids are. Listen to hear. Look in their eyes. Watch them. Hear what they're saying. Hear what they say to you. Don't listen to then respond that you think you know. Really hear what they're saying and then read that back to them. Oh, so you're telling me you feel this and you feel that. Would you like to know more? Would you like to know about that and why that happens in your body? Like, when they're younger, they will say yes. And that starts this process of why they'll respond when they're 18, why they'll respond when they're 14, because they've been in these natural conversations with you where it was safe to say yes, and it was safe to get the answer, and it felt okay. So when they're 14 and you say, oh, as your mom, I really love you and would love to support you through this. There's some information I'd like to share with you. They will listen. They will. So from age 9 to 11, a body shift massively happens. It does not matter what your your heredity says. From age 9 to 11, in boys and girls, a massive shift begins to happen. That's when the hormones start to do small little things. The breast starts to develop. Testicles should be, starting to get bigger. Their penis starts to get bigger. Like, boys, I will tell you, there is not enough support for boys around this. I am really passionate about this. There is not enough support for boys around this. Girls have all the books. They have all these huge sections for feminine health in the grocery stores. Where's the sections for the men? Because they definitely have needs. And they definitely need the support. And I read a book that I just really highly recommend called Decoding Boys. Cannot remember the doctor's name, but it has a little pair of shoes on the front. And that was one of the best books I read that talked about how the male mind develops differently than the female mind. I mean, would you know it? We're different species, guys. Like, we're different. We are different. Their mind develops at a different rate and way. It's different in how the hormones send the message to their testicles and their penis and all this different stuff. And they will need bigger underwear. They need bigger underwear during this jump as things are kind of perky. They need bigger underwear. If you notice your son constantly pulling at himself and I remember one of my sons was like, it's like sticking to my leg and like all these things. And I was just like, what? And I was like, oh my gosh. And a girl will need her first bra. And the boy needs to understand that in the next year or so, his nipples will start getting hard and not to feel. My husband is talking about, nobody told him about that. He thought he was turning into a woman in 6th grade. If we don't have these conversations, they will come up with all sorts of stuff that is not And your son might be all stressed out one week and you think, oh, they must be getting bullied or math must be so hard for them. Maybe they just need bigger underwear. Maybe they need to be told that they're not turning into a woman. Like, there is so many conversations we're not having with our young men. And according to tons of amazing studies, you can read about them in that book, Decoding Men, Decoding Boys, because they don't have these conversations and support, they're the ones that 87% get into pornography. They're the ones that find 93% drug addiction. They're the ones that are doing 96% of the shootings. Like they have no emotional outlet. They don't have the support for their bodies. They don't have the support from their mothers and fathers. Like, it's amazing how this correlates, this emotional support we're giving to women correlates across so many studies of why men do certain things and women don't. Yes, women get addicted to pornography. Yes, women have been known to have violence, all these things, but so much of why men are at the forefront is because of their lack of emotional support. As young children, and as young men, for years and years and years, we've told young men to just suck it up. Men don't cry. Men don't hit girls. Like, guys, we have got to be the moms that start changing this conversation. We have got to be the moms that start changing this conversation. No, you go out and shut the door. Go out and shut the door. Talk to someone else, please. We've got to have this conversation. And it has become so important to me to know this. I have 2 boys. Like, you want to raise strong, resilient sons. Like, just we want to raise strong, resilient mothers. And in this book, she talks about why boys typically go silent at like age 12, 13, 14. It's kind of a joke among moms. Yeah, oh, teenage boys, they don't talk. Guys, they want to talk. They do. And that's why starting these conversations really, really young is so important. So important to have an emotionally supported son. My boy is 13, my oldest. He talks to me. He talks to his older sisters. And I know that that's unique in our society. So talk about the body shift conversation and how you start that conversation. Like, they will be in that space. You say, I'm your mom. I've been watching you since you were a baby. Some shifts are happening. I want to share some information with you. This isn't a, do you want to talk about this? Or we need to have a talk. It's, I want to share some information with you. You get to know this as a human being and as my son, like, this is happening. Do you need bigger underwear? Do you need a different style of pants? Like, do you need a bra? Do you need some different types of shirts? Like, how are you feeling about this? What are you seeing? You know, what's important to you right now? Like, just a conversation that has no awkwardness, nothing weird. Like, it's so good to just be open about this stuff. And one of the things that my kids, because I asked my older girls again last night too, I was like, hey, I'm doing this conversation about sex. What are some of the things that really helped you guys? And one of my daughters said, you know, when you would tell us that this was going to happen, I really loved knowing that, because when it did happen, I didn't think I was crazy. My husband's sister talks about, she got her period. No one told her anything. She thought she was dying. Like, she thought she was dying, like, legit. And that's sad. Like, that's so sad. And my other daughter said, you know, I love that you told us that that was a sign that we were healthy. Like, I tell my kids, like, this is happening to you, but I know it's a big change. It is something we get to support you through, but I just want you to know that this also tells me as your mom that you're healthy, that you're right on track for where your brain needs to be for where you're going. Like, I say that probably in every single moment we have where we talk about this is, I'm glad you brought this up, or I'm glad we're talking about this. It shows me that you're normal. It shows me that you're a healthy 9-year-old or a healthy 11-year-old or whatever it is. And stuff like that. Give them tools at this point, age 9 to 11. Give them the tools. If you need to buy a book, you know, like a developmental book, how to shave, if they choose they want to shave, like give them tools, ideas, help them learn to talk it out. Maybe they need to start a journal. Both my girls have been very, very helped with journaling. My 13-year-old son really likes to talk it out. We've talked about that. Like he doesn't really like to sit and write, but he loves to talk it out. Tell them it's fine to scream into a pillow. Tell them if you feel like you need to break something apart, you come to me, I will give you a box and you can shred that thing to pieces. Talk clearly about the aggression they might feel as they shift. They might need to go on a long bike ride. Just tell mom and dad where you're going. Like clearly talk about periods and ejaculation and talk about with both sexes. When I'm having these talks with the girls or with the boys, like I try to have my husband there anytime. He sits and he prefers to let me do most of the talking. He still has a lot of emotional development to go, but when I'm talking to my girls about their period, I'm letting them know that the boys their age are also going through these different things and what they're going through at that age. I talk to both sexes about both sexes. And that has been so healthy. And so when, my son sees like stuff in the garbage that might be bloody or a different thing, like he is not in the dark about this. He knows what's going on. And so age 11 to 13, make sure if they do not already, because I guarantee when they're very young, they probably already brought up how are babies made and how does sex work? And the best way to go about those conversations is to always first ask, well, what do you know? And start where they are. The biggest mistakes parents make is when they say stuff that the kid did not want to know. Like they weren't even there and they're like, what? So you ask them, how much do you already know? What does this word sex mean to you? Do you know what a vagina is? Do you know what a penis is? Do you know what this is? Like, what do you already know? Because it was interesting. I was talking to my older son just the other day and I was just like, he was joking with his friends about the word creamy, which I guess is now a term for sperm or whatever. And they were joking about something disgusting because exploration, curiosity, right? And I was just like, hey, but then his younger brother was expressing how, like, I think they were having ice cream or something. And he was like, oh, it's so creamy. I love it. And him and this older boy just started laughing. And he was like, what? And he felt totally humiliated. Like, I don't understand what they're laughing about. So I had to talk to my son about this. Like, hey, do you even know what this is? Do you know what sperm is? Do you know, like, and he was just like, well, I think so. And I think this, and and it was just an open conversation right here. Like, and he had a lot of questions at that time. It ended up being like a 25-minute conversation. But clearly talk about these things to both sexes as much as possible. And just allow it when it comes. There doesn't have to be some special time or moment where we have to go in the room and have this thing. Just allow it. So that was, if you're taking steps, that was number 9, was allow it when it comes. Maybe after a major emotional meltdown, you give them hugs and you're supporting them and say, hey, I have some information to share with you about this, why this emotional meltdown happened. Your brain's going through that, and you can just tell them. They'll hear you. They want that support. So number 10, between ages 13 and 18, be available. Do the work to where you are available. Okay, because it'll be, like I said, so apparent to them if you are not. When you take the girls to go buy their pads and you are talking about this stuff and you might have a boy along, show them where the condoms are and tell them what those are for and just let them in on what is going on in life. This is all of us as humans. To be open with my kids, we're like, sometimes when you say you're going to snuggle with dad, are you just having sex? Like sometimes. Like I would have never had that conversation in our home. But letting our kids understand these things is so important, to be open for the conversations, that you will tell them the truth. Being a truth speaker is something that is so important as a parent. And allow the spirit to guide you if you're a little bit, scared, or even if you aren't. Like I always pray and help me say the thing that this child needs to hear. Help me to hear what's coming from them that I can support them the very most. And I've had really clear promptings of a book to share, a thought to share, So how to start the conversation if it's been a long time, or it's this one of, I've been your mom since you were born. I've watched you a lot. There's something I want to share with you because I see something's different in you. They'll be like, oh, I'm here for you. When maybe like I'm here for you and you feel like sharing. If they're like, I don't want to talk to you right now, mom. I'll be like, okay, well, I want to share this with you within the week. When do you think you'll have a good time? They'll be like, maybe tomorrow after my play date. Like, let them do that just as you would with your husband if you have something important to discuss. Let them be in on your level. Let them have their agency. One of the best things that I have learned to gauge kind of the emotional support my kids needs is hugging. And I've mentioned this in another class, but hug your kids a lot. And here's the key with this is to hug them and let them decide when the hug is over. Give them hugs a lot after school, before they go to bed, before they leave somewhere, when they get home from somewhere, because this has been such a great tool for me. And I can't imagine that other people wouldn't have it either, but let them decide how long the hug is going to be. And that is how I've learned to gauge how much emotional support they actually need. Because I've had a 13-year-old girl hug me for she just sat and hung on. And when she pulled back, she had tears. And she's like, Mom, thank you. I need you to hold me in this moment. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, oh, I'm here to support you. Anything you'd like to share with me? Like, giving her that time. You don't always have that kind of time, but I will tell you, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, like giving them a hug and letting them decide when to let go has been a really good indicator for me if they're needing emotional support. So that's a little tip for you. And one of the best conversation starters I have for you is there's something important I want to share with you. As your mom, I love you. I have something important to share with you. Casual conversations versus a meeting. My 9-year-old just plopped down here the other day and was like, hey, my friend said sex is when two naked people, blah, blah. And I was just like, okay, what do you know about that? Remember how we talked about girls have 3 holes and boys have a penis? Well, the middle hole in the girl, we just talked about what that was. And he's like, oh, that's kind of weird. And I said, yeah, because you don't have the big emotions yet. You're not old enough to have had those emotions to understand why that's something you want to have happen. I mean, just really conversational. And it's important for them to learn to gauge those big emotions so that they will have the instinct. And one of the biggest things that has helped my boys and my girls, I think just naturally steer clear of sexual activity in a young age is just letting them know, hey, when you have sex, you can create a baby. And that baby needs a home, it needs to be cared for, all this stuff. So until you're ready to be a dad, until you're ready to be a mom, this is something you want to hang on, just let it, it's fun. You're going to feel these emotions as my teens have gotten older. Yeah, you're going to start noticing boys. You'll start noticing girls. That is on your way to when you find that person that wants to build a family with you. And that's when you'll start really exploring your sexuality and, engaging in this. And they're like, oh, okay. It's just when it's so open like that. And even if our kid, sees naked pictures or whatever, they've come and told us hey, my friend brought this magazine. And well, how'd that make you feel? What do you feel about that? And he's like, well, it just seems like it's probably not the right thing to do because the spirit will work on them. And I'm like, then it probably isn't. What's your next plan of action? What are you going to do? Put it in their ballpark, you guys. Give them the agency. You can't give them agency, right? We've talked about that. They have it. Let them explore. The other thing is follow through. If you talk to them and they say they need a bra or they need bigger underwear or you go follow through. Make sure you do it soon. Make your child's emotional health a priority. Make your child's sexual growth a priority. They will come to you with things and respond when they know that it's a priority for you and it wasn't just a checkbox off a list. Seriously. And I would do it soon. If you have seen these ages, you have these ages of kids, this is a conversation to have. some of the things you want to make sure you don't do, and I know we're like totally at the end of our time, but saying things like, we need to have a talk, or it's time for the talk, come on. Our brains totally resist the words change and like not feeling like we're going to have a voice in a situation. They will put up a wall so fast. Like we're saying things like, well, you aren't talking, so I will. Like, no. How come you did this? Why did you do this? I don't get it. Like, that is not helpful. It's not helpful. It's not workable, nothing. And I will tell you that I've coached a few teens in my day, and I gave them the talk that's called the mushy brain talk. Just understand as a mom that between ages like 10, 11 until 15, 16, our brain literally, and you can read about this in the Decoding Boys book. She has a whole big section on brain development, but it literally breaks down and shifts into a more mature state. Their brain literally breaks down. That's why 1 minute they'll act like they're all responsible, and the next minute they're on the floor kicking and screaming like a 2-year-old. Their brain is literally mush for like 5 years. It's mush. And I tell them that when they're like 9, 10, I'm like, hey, you're going to go through a period of time where emotions are going to get big and you may not be able to figure everything out. You're going to have to ask for help. It's called mushy brain stage. It's shifting until you get a little bit older while your whole body shifts, getting ready to be an adult. And I want to tell you this now, because when you're in that stage, I'm going to say things to you or ask you to do things that will not make sense to you. And I want you to remember this conversation, that you're going to have to trust me in those moments because you're in mushy brain stage. And even now with my 13-year-old son, I'm like, do you remember when we talked about mushy brain stage? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, you're in it. So while this doesn't make sense to you now, I promise and guarantee you that if you do this, like, it will be the best for you. You can choose what you decide to do, but you won't see this, but this is something I want to make sure that I've told you. He's like, okay. Like, I've said that to my girls too, mushy brain stage, or they'll just be like out of control, emotional. Mom, I'm mushy brain. It's given them permission to be a little bit crazy. Okay. It's so good. Yes, Serena, the mushy brain talk. So good. So why is this important, you guys? Because kids want to please their parents. They really do. And our sexuality is just a piece of us. It's an organ. It's part of us. And their kids want to see you as a guide. They want a guide. And I can't tell you how many parents I talk to, women that are like, I need a guide. I need a guide. I need a guide. We're all here on this earth together for a purpose. People can guide you. Okay, not someone to just enforce their belief or their opinion, but a guide. They will come talk to you if you're emotionally available as a guide for them. They will. And I want you to know that I'm not some amazing superhuman being. Like, as I told you in the beginning of this video, like, I grew up with nothing, but I've been able to come full circle and heal through understanding how my brain works, understanding how to disrupt thought patterns to end suffering and tension and all these things, to be able to have this kind of conversation with my kids, and they can have that as well. Learning to coach myself through big emotions has been huge. But I'll tell you, one of the biggest wins with coaching moms is that they then learn to coach their kids. They learn the phrases, they learn the emotionally available responses to coach their children through rough things, because they now know how to do it. If you're ready, like, to become the strong, resilient mom that's emotionally open, drop the word strong in the chat and let's have a conversation, because there can be a different way of raising our families. There can be a different way that we talk about sex and sexuality. There can be a different way. And if you're ready to shift how you are, drop the word strong in the chat and I will reach out. We can talk about if I can support you through that, or if there's resources that you need. But I have loved having this talk. This is something that I kind of hesitated on because I know it's so personal, but taking the morality out of it, I think, is really, really key to just saying, look, we're humans. This is how we are. It has nothing to do with, like, this is what this is. So I hope you enjoyed class. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Those that talked in the chats, and if you're on replay, make sure that you're participating there. And I will see you in class another time.